Laravel Herd is a PHP and Laravel development environment which packages all necessary tools to quickly start developing Laravel applications. But besides Laravel development, Laravel Herd also supports several other popular PHP frameworks, in particular Symfony, WordPress, and others. So in this series we're going to review Laravel Herd development environment. It is available for macOS as well as for Windows operating systems, and comes with a nice graphical installer, so we can quickly get up and running in seconds. After we download Herd installer, all we have to do on macOS is to drag its icon into Applications folder, and we are all set. And when we launch Laravel Herd, there will be new Herd icon in menu bar, from where we can manage different services provided by Herd. And after Herd installation, there are several utilities available to us in the terminal, such as PHP Interpreter, Laravel Installer, Composer Package Manager, as well as Node Interpreter. And all of them have been automatically installed during Laravel Herd installation. Now let's open up Herd settings and review some of them. In the first step, we can specify the path to those folders with our projects which we'd like to be available in the browser. For example, by default, all projects stored inside of Herd folder, which is inside of current user folder, will be available in the browser automatically. But I can easily add additional folders by clicking on the plus icon. But I'm not going to do it this way. Instead, I will manually add particular folder with the project via terminal, and we will see how to do this later on in this lesson. On the second tab, there is an option to quickly scaffold new Laravel application by clicking on this plus icon, where we can choose one of the options in here. First option will scaffold default Laravel application without any starter kits that provide registration and authentication functionality, such as Laravel Breeze or Laravel Jetstream. You can choose any preferred option, or we can manually scaffold Laravel application from within the terminal by running Laravel new and the folder name with the project, which can be any name you wish. And inside this folder, Laravel installer will put default Laravel application. I have already run this command and created the project with the name Laravel Herd. Also, when running Laravel new command, we will be presented with an option which database to use. I have chosen SQLite, but how to use another database management tools we will take a look in one of the next lessons. So this folder contains default Laravel installation. Usually I store all projects inside code folder, which is inside of my current users folder. And if I would want to make all the projects inside of this folder available in the browser, I could easily add paths to this folder in the Herd control panel that we have seen earlier. And then all project folders within this code folder will be available in the browser. But in this case, I will do it manually, and to make this Laravel Herd project available in the browser, we have to run the following command inside the folder with the project, Herd link, and after this inside Herd's control panel, we can see new entry in this list, which means our project is available in the browser under the following address, laravel-herd.test. And if we'll switch over to the browser and open up this address, sure enough, we will see welcome page of the default Laravel application. Another way to make all folders available in the browser within a particular folder is to run the following command, herd park, inside of that folder with all our project folders. And please note that the domain name corresponds to the folder name with our project. We can easily switch PHP versions used globally as well as used for a particular project. As you can see, my global PHP version is 8.3, and I can activate different PHP versions from within this menu. For example, let's try to activate 8.1, and now if I'll run PHP version again, I can see that now different PHP version is used, which is 8.1. This is how we can configure PHP version globally that will be used system-wide. But if we would want to configure particular PHP version to be used only within a specific project, we could use this list and specify particular version for this website. In the next tab, we can install additional PHP versions. Let's try to install version 8.0. And right after installation process completes, new version will become available to choose for a particular website in this list, as well as in the list of global PHP versions that we can choose. I'll choose newly installed version of PHP 8.0 and run the common PHP version to make sure that that new version is indeed 8.0. Alright, now let's get back the newest version of PHP, which is 8.3, and continue. Just like we can manage different versions of PHP, in the same way we can also manage different versions of Node interpreter. My current version of Node is 22. And if we'd want to use different version, we could install it from within this screen or update an existing version of Node that is already installed. And by the way, Laravel Herd uses another tool to manage Node.js versions, which is Node Version Manager or NVM. So if we'll try to run NVM list in the terminal, we can see the list of all available Node.js versions that we can choose from. But in addition to those, we can also install new versions by using this tool. Firstly, let's try to change version of Node by using NVM use and specify version. I'll use 20. And now if we'll run Node version, as we can see, the global version of Node was changed to 20. And if we'll have to install additional version of Node, we can do so by running nvm install and specify the version that we want to install. And then let's activate this version by running nvm use 22. And finally, to uninstall particular version of Node by using nvm, we can run nvm uninstall and specify the version of Node that we wish to remove, like so. Link to the repository of this playlist will be in the video description. We'll continue reviewing Laravel Herd in the next lesson. Now let's talk a little bit more about how we can manage PHP versions. I'm going to open up this project in PHP Storm, and then let's open up file with routes web.php, and in here I'm going to add another route with the path php info, and this route is basically going to print out information about PHP version used for this site. And to get information about current PHP interpreter, we can execute default function called php info, like so. So now let's open up this route in the browser. I'll reference php info path, and as we can see, we got the information about current PHP interpreter, and the current version of PHP used by this site is 8.3, which matches my current global version of PHP used in the system. As we can see, global version of PHP is also 8.3. We can change this version from within control panel of Herd, or we can do it from within the terminal. Let's do it via terminal this time. To change PHP version, we have to run herd use and specify PHP version that we'd like to use. In this case, I'll choose 8.2. And there we go, global PHP version was changed, as well as PHP version used for this website. After refreshing the page, we can see that PHP version is now 8.2, because currently this website uses version of PHP that is used globally in operating system. But we could easily choose particular PHP version that has to be used for a particular website. We can do so by using this list in Herd's control panel. And by the way, to quickly open up particular website in the browser, we can use this icon. So now as we can see, the website uses version of PHP 8.3, but the global version of PHP used in the operating system is still 8.2. And to see which websites managed by Laravel Herd use which versions of PHP, we can run herd isolated. So currently in the system I have a couple of projects managed by Herd, and one of them, which is Laravel Herd, which is our current project, uses version of PHP 8.3. But just because my current global version of PHP used in the operating system is 8.2, after running herd unisolate, this current project will use default version of PHP used in operating system, which is 8.2. So now I have only one project in the system managed by Herd, which uses specific version of PHP, and other projects use version of PHP used globally in operating system. And to make particular project use specific version of PHP, we can run herd isolate and specify a version of PHP that we like to use in this project. And after running herd isolated, we can see that Laravel Herd project uses specific version of PHP, which is 8.2. We can also specify a default PHP version that has to be used system-wide by using herd utility. Let's run herd use and specify the version which we'd like to make global. So now the global version of PHP, as you can see, is 8.3, but if we'd like to check which version of PHP is currently used in particular project, firstly we have to navigate to the folder with that project and run herd PHP version like so. And if running PHP via herd like this, the isolated version of PHP will be used, that one that is currently used inside this project, instead of the global one. And if we don't want any particular PHP version used for a particular project, we just have to run herd unisolate. And this way this project will use default version of PHP which is used globally in the operating system. And if we would need to modify configuration files of any PHP versions, we can open up the folder where all PHP configuration files are stored by clicking this menu item, Open Configuration Files. And here we can find configuration files for all available PHP versions currently installed in the system. But please note that after modifying php.ini file, we'll have to restart all services. We can do this either by running herd restart in the terminal or by using control panel of herd. Here we have to click stop all and then start all services again. But sometimes not all services will be started, and as a potential fix to this problem can be to force stop all services by holding Option key on macOS and clicking Force Stop All menu item. And after starting all services again, all of them should be successfully started. So this is how we can manage different PHP versions by using Laravel Herd. Let's continue in the next lesson. Sometimes it might be very useful to make local website available globally. And in order to share local website and generate globally available link, we can use servers called expose. Laravel Herd by default provides an integration with this service and includes expose command line utility. So in order to use this service, we firstly have to create an account, and then on the home page there will be a couple of steps listed that we have to follow in order to be able to share local websites. Actually, in our case, we can skip the first step, because right after we have installed Laravel Herd, command line utility expose has been also installed. So we are skipping the first step, and all we have to do is to run the second command, which is going to set authentication token for the expose utility. And by the way, if we're gonna run which expose command in the terminal, we can see the path to the utility expose where Laravel Herd has installed it. On macOS it has been put inside Library Application Support Herd folder. So next, let's just copy over this command to set authentication token and run it in the terminal. And right after that, we'll be able to run herd share in the project folder. And right away, we're going to see a couple of links which we can use to access local website globally. So we can share this link with our clients to demonstrate our work, or with colleagues, or we can simply use these links to test local application on mobile devices. Let's just make sure that this link works. I'm gonna open it up in the browser, and sure enough, I'm still seeing default Laravel application. So the link is working, and that's about it. This is how easy it is to share local website globally when using Laravel Herd. When I have initially installed Laravel application, I have chosen SQLite database, and that is why in my configuration file .env, environment variables to connect to database has been set up to connect to SQLite database. SQLite is a file-based database, so in order to use it, we have to specify the path to the database file, and the default database file for the SQLite database in Laravel project is located under the database folder. So now we're gonna take a look how to connect to this database. I'm going to use graphical application to connect to the database called Table Plus, which is also available on Windows and Linux. So let's switch over to Table Plus, and in here I'm gonna create new connection. Let's use any name for this connection, and then we have to specify the path to the database file, which in the default Laravel project is located under the database folder, and the name of this file is database.sqlite. Now let's test this connection. As you can see, the connection was successfully established, and right away we're seeing several tables in this database, and those tables have been created during the Laravel installation process because during the installation, migrations have been executed. Now let's see if we can actually read the data from the database in our application. I'm going to create one record in the users table that we are going to try to fetch. So I'll switch over to PHP Storm, and in here let's create another route. Let's call it users. And what we're basically going to do in here is we're going to fetch all records from the users table, like so. Let's also not forget to import user class in this file. And then let's switch over to the browser and reference this path users. And as you can see, our one user record has been fetched. So that means that database connection is working properly. But what if, for example, we want to use different database server other than SQLite? And to connect to a different database server, I will use another application called DB Engine, which provides several kinds of databases, including Postgres, MySQL, and Redis. From here I'm going to create Postgres database server and connect to it. Let's start this Postgres server, and then I'll switch over to Table Plus, and in here let's establish new connection with Postgres server. But before I'll remove the previous connection, then let's create new connection, and by default to connect to Postgres, we can use Postgres username and an empty password. And there we go, we have been successfully connected. But as we can see, the Postgres server is completely empty. There are no databases yet. So before creating the database in here, I'm gonna modify my environment variables a little bit to properly connect to Postgres server. So the connection name will be pgsql, the username will be Postgres, and the password will be empty. And by the way, all default configurations to connect to Postgres database are located inside database.php file. As you can see, default values for such configuration options as host as well as password don't have to be changed in our case, so we can remove corresponding environment variables from .env file, as well as environment variable db database, because now we're going to create database inside Postgres server with the same name Laravel, and this name will be used by default when connecting to the database. So let's create new database inside Postgres server. I'm gonna call it Laravel. But now if we'll switch over to the terminal and run the command to execute migrations, php artisan migrate, sure enough, in our database we're going to see several tables created by the migrations. And just because our users table is currently empty, that means that if I'll refresh the page in the browser, I'm going to get an empty array. And this is the route which is supposed to return all records from the users table. But the moment we're going to add at least one entry inside users table, I'm gonna quickly create one record in here, and then switch over to the browser and refresh the page once again. We are expecting to see one record, and indeed this record appears. So as you can see, to connect to different databases from within Laravel application is pretty easy. And with the help of such tools as DB Engine and Table Plus, we can quickly create different database servers and connect to them. Laravel provides us with command line utility to interact with our application, which is called Tinker. We can run the Tinker by executing PHP artisan Tinker. And in here, we can run any PHP code in the context of our Laravel application. So for example, let's execute this statement to fetch all records from the users table. And here we go. Right away we're seeing the result of this statement. And this is especially useful whenever we need to quickly test some piece of code. But there is also a paid application called Tinkerwell, and this application takes interaction with Laravel application on the next level. So instead of using terminal, we can use nice looking graphical application to interact with our applications. And in addition to all default features of command line Tinker, Tinkerwell also provides a variety of other useful features. This application is available on macOS as well as Windows and Linux. So after the installation, in order to interact with our application, we have to firstly specify the path to the folder with our project. And that's it, we are ready to run any PHP code in the context of our Laravel application. So for example, let's run the same statement to fetch all records from the users table. And right away, we're seeing the result of our query on the right side. And by the way, Laravel Herd provides nice integration with Tinkerwell. And to be able to quickly open up Tinkerwell in the particular application, we can use this icon. Laravel Herd automatically detects if Tinkerwell is installed in operating system and uses it. Otherwise, it is going to use command line Tinker. Tinkerwell provides very nice experience to debug and test PHP and Laravel code. We can literally execute any PHP code in here. And what's most importantly is that all this code will be executed in the context of our Laravel application. And that means that we can interact with the application by using all its features. Up until now we have already reviewed most of the features of Laravel Herd, but there is also a pro version of Herd which provides many other additional features. Check out the docs to learn more. And with that we are finishing the review of Laravel Herd.